Hi guys, welcome to a lesson on symmetry. My name is Ben Glass. My student ID number is 7751133. Today's lesson will be mostly directed towards your primary school, early primary school specifically, and your preschool aged sort of area. For you, this is an opportunity for educators to learn a little bit of 4 different symmetries. But within our activities, we'll actually be focusing on reflection specifically. We'll start with reflection because that's what our activities will focus on. Here we've got, for example, the letter R, and it's essentially, imagine a piece of paper has been folded and you've copied exactly where that R is. But instead of copying the R as if you normally write it, it would be backwards. This is what we call a bilateral line of symmetry, and this is a lateral line of symmetry. So because we're focusing around nature being symmetrical, an example of nature being symmetrical is potentially a fish. And if you take a fish and you cut it in half on a bilateral line, obviously it won't be equal. If you take it on a lateral line, you will find that obviously the fish is equal on both sides, that is. Okay, going on from there is glide reflection. This is essentially where, again, we're reflecting it, but then we're translating it to another position. That could be right, left, up, down. Well, probably not up because obviously that's where it's reflected from, so potentially left or right most of the time. What happens here is essentially it's been reflected and then it's been brought across. Again, this is just to provide you an example. If you were in an assessment scenario, you would be doing something like this. This is obviously your lateral and your bilateral examples. Translation is, as I said before, within glide reflection we talked about reflecting and translating. This is translating essentially, or translation, where we've taken the R and we've moved it somewhere else. That is the be all and end all of what translation is. Next is rotation. Rotation is simply moving the letter to a different angle. You're not reflecting it or anything like that. You're just moving it, for example, 0 degrees to 90 degrees or 180 to 270. It doesn't actually have to be in 90-degree fragments. It could be in 45 degrees or whatever you want. But here are some examples, obviously, how R, if I put this upside down, it's written as if it's normal. So it's just something to keep in mind, that you're not writing it backwards or anything different like that. Onto our activity. What I've done is that what a lot of children have probably done in primary school. I did it with my son personally, and we had a lot of fun with it this morning. And it was simply, we obviously just took a lot of paint. A lot of people just put dabs of paint and then just fold it in half. So yeah, this is essentially putting a generous amount of paint and then obviously just folding it in half. Like I said, this is directed towards primary to early childhood for a lesson, and it's more about the child having fun within this activity than necessarily learning the in-depth focus around symmetry. It just helps them to understand, obviously in nature, looking for butterflies or looking for other animals that are exactly the same. You can provide examples obviously to children of what is symmetrical. A butterfly is obviously going to be the most obvious thing that they're going to notice in life. What I then did is that I thought of the idea of a snowflake and how we used to make snowflakes out of paper. Instead, I didn't really focus too much on the snowflake itself, because as you can see here, I didn't make a snowflake. All I did was essentially fold it up and then cut a few different triangles, squares, whatever shapes you can imagine. Essentially, you can even do little men and so forth. And then I unfold it. And what I ended up thinking as I was working with my son is that you can actually take what you've done, and we did two butterflies, as you can see, and then actually attach these to symmetrical objects. So you obviously got the butterfly underneath. It doesn't actually have to be a butterfly if you don't want it to be. And then you put this on top, and what ends up happening, obviously I didn't have enough paint for it to generously cover the other side, but it ends up bleeding through the paper and ends up being a really cool activity for the kids. That's a little bit unique from what maybe you did as a child. Again, my son really loved this activity. He's only 1 and he was able to enjoy this. So again, you know, for him, his version of this was far messier than this, but he loved it. If you have any questions for me, feel free to drop any comments in the YouTube video. I've really enjoyed this project. It's been absolutely fantastic, especially because I got to do it with my son. The only thing I would say is that, again, if you want to expand upon symmetry, you would be, especially in nature, you would probably try looking into those other reflections, which would be glide, reflection, translation, and rotation. So yeah, it was a really great project. Really had fun. Thanks for your time.